In this unit, we're looking at Ballantyne and Hammock, Chapter 13, the last chapter in the book. Yay, we made it! This chapter focuses on educational movements, that is, making changes to educational policies and systems. And I think it's a good send-off, both from Ballantyne and Hammock and from me. What the authors and I want you to take away from this course is that there is room for improvement in education, and you can do something about it if you choose. So here are some of the core issues covered in this final chapter. First of all, remember in the last few units how we talked about centralized versus decentralized models of decision-making in education? Well, that comes into play yet again when we look at educational movements. Educational movements are much more likely to take hold in decentralized systems, like in the US, because these movements often start from the bottom up. They're often grassroots kinds of movements with little centralization and no real official spokesperson or policy or anything like that. Now, they can become more centralized over time, but they usually start as sort of this amorphous mass of folks just thinking it would be good to change education in a certain way. Take the emphasis on basic skills as an example. People have been talking about the need to train students on basic skills, reading, writing, math, and science, for a long time, even if focusing on those meant cutting funding for other areas of study. And having a decentralized educational system meant that any district could put some policies into place and try to improve basic skills. You'd hear about it here and there from certain politicians and pundits and community leaders, but most recently the idea really took hold at the national level when George W. Bush's administration and political leaders from both parties decided that this would be something that the federal government could focus on, something they could say was really needed and they could control. And so at the end of 2001, we got the No Child Left Behind Act, with its strong focus on testing in literacy, math, and science. Okay, with that in mind, Ballantyne and Hammock then talk about the nature of educational movements, and they specify 4 types. First, reform movements, which are often focused on changing society by changing education. Then regressive movements, which aim to change education back to a way it had been in the past, a perceived better way than it is in the present. Revolutionary movements, which look to change the whole structure, including social structure, and thus include education as part of that structure. And utopian movements, which look for loosely controlled radical changes in education, aiming for a freer, child-centered type of education. As you can probably see, there's going to be some overlap in these because, for example, utopian movements can also be revolutionary in how they are implemented, such as the 1960s Counterculture Movement, which affected education among other social institutions. Now, you'll read about the 1960s Counterculture Movement and a lot of other history of different educational movements in Chapter 13. Most of these movements can be characterized as wanting to achieve one or both of 2 things: changes to the curriculum and/or changes to the structure of schooling. And that's where you'll read about some of the current hot topics in education like school choice, multiculturalism, and educational technology. Indeed, just in taking this course right now, you are part of an educational movement in academic technology in higher education. This is a movement that strives to demonstrate how education can be just as effective when delivered online as it can be in the classroom, maybe even more so. So that's kind of fun to think about, and I'll leave it to you to ponder the effectiveness of taking this course online versus what it would be like if you took it in a traditional on-ground classroom. Okay, that's it for me. Remember that we have a quiz and a discussion forum this week, and remember that your final essay is due too. That essay is due during finals week, so check the course schedule for specific due dates, and remember, the earlier you get your work done, the earlier you could start celebrating the break. I will see you online for the discussion forum, and beyond that, I hope to see you again in another course.